The March wind carried dust across the dried fields of Riverside Farm, whipping through the empty stalls where cattle once grazed. Caleb Harrison stood on the sagging porch, watching the red numbers on the eviction notice blur in his tired eyes. 63 days. That's all they had left. "Dad, there's a truck coming up the drive." Grace, his 17-year-old daughter, pointed toward the gravel road where a horse trailer kicked up clouds of Oklahoma dirt. Caleb's chest tightened. They were expecting a gentle mare, a quick flip to make $300 toward the mortgage. Every penny counted now. The driver, a weathered man named Lucas, stepped down with a clipboard. "Harrison Farm." "That's us," Caleb said, signing without reading. His hands trembled slightly, not from age at 42, but from the weight of watching everything his father built crumble to dust. Lucas lowered the trailer ramp. "She's a handful. Good luck." The mare that emerged wasn't the docile chestnut they'd ordered. She was a striking bay with a white blaze, eyes wild and suspicious, muscles coiled tight beneath her coat. The moment her hooves touched Oklahoma soil, she reared, jerking the lead rope from Lucas's hands. "Whoa! This isn't—" Caleb grabbed for the paperwork, but Lucas was already climbing back into his cab. "Says Harrison Farm, says problem mare. My job's done." Gravel sprayed as the truck disappeared down the road, leaving Caleb and Grace staring at a horse that looked like she wanted to kick down the entire barn. "Dad, the invoice says temperament issues, return refused." Grace's voice was small. "What does that mean?" Caleb's stomach dropped. Return refused. Sending her back would cost at least $200 in transport, money they didn't have. They were stuck with her. The mare paced the paddock fence, nostrils flaring, searching for escape routes. A metal tag hung from her halter, Ember, handle with caution. "Welcome to Riverside Farm, Ember," Caleb muttered. "Population, 2 broke humans and 1 horse we can't afford to keep or return." That night, lying in bed, he listened to Ember kicking the stall walls. Each bang felt like another nail in the farm's coffin. 5 days later, Riverside Farm looked worse. Ember had kicked through 2 fence boards, refused every attempt at handling, and nearly trampled Grace when she tried to feed her. The repair costs ate into the grocery money. "She's dangerous, Dad." Grace stood outside the paddock, a bruise darkening her shoulder where Ember had slammed her against the gate. "We have to do something." Caleb knew she was right, but every option cost money they didn't have. The bank had called twice that morning. Their neighbors, the Hendersons, had already lost their land. Foreclosure sales were spreading through the county like wildfire. Caleb had taken out one final loan, $15,000, betting everything on breeding 2 mares and selling their foals. But the gentle mare never arrived. Instead, they got Ember. "I'll call the livestock auction," he finally said. "Maybe someone will take her for meat prices." Grace's face fell, but she didn't argue. She understood the math. Survival wasn't pretty. That evening, Caleb sat in the barn office, phone in hand, when he heard Ember's shrill whinny pierce the night. Not her usual angry sound, this was different, urgent. He ran outside. Ember was circling her paddock, head high, ears pinned toward the far pasture. Then he smelled it, smoke. "Grace, fire!" The old hay shed, struck by lightning from the evening storm, was burning. If the wind shifted, it would take the barn, and their last chance at insurance money would vanish in ash and unpaid premiums. They fought the fire for 2 hours with a garden hose and desperation. When the volunteer fire truck finally arrived, the shed was gone, but the barn stood. "Lucky you caught it early," the fire chief said. "How'd you notice?" Caleb looked back at Ember, still pacing, still alert. "The horse told us." Orchestrated narrative pacing e desenvolveu autenticidade equina para a história. "Good. I'm building the story naturally." Ember alerted them to danger through natural animal instincts, acute hearing and smell, which horses actually have. This is realistic. Now I need to develop the discovery of what makes her special and her background. I'm at about 750 words. Need to keep the pacing going through chapters 3, 4, and 5 to reach 2,000 total. Chapter 3. Hidden Value. Grace started spending more time near Ember's paddock, not trying to touch her, just sitting on the fence, talking softly about school, about losing the farm, about her mother who'd left 3 years ago when the debts started piling up. Ember would pace at first, then gradually stand closer, ears swiveling to catch Grace's voice. "She's listening, Dad," Grace said one afternoon. Really listening. Caleb was skeptical until the incident with the rattlesnake. Grace was walking the fence line when Ember suddenly charged the barrier, screaming a warning. 2 feet from where Grace stood, a massive diamondback was coiled in the grass, camouflaged perfectly. "She saw it before I did," Grace whispered, backing away slowly. How did she know? That night, Caleb examined Ember more carefully. She allowed him closer now, perhaps sensing he meant no harm. As he ran his hand along her neck, he felt something, a small raised scar beneath her mane. And another on her shoulder, deliberate marks like tattoos. He grabbed a flashlight. The shoulder marking was faded but legible. SAR 07. Search and rescue. His heart began to pound. He pulled up Google on his cracked phone screen, searching SAR Horses, Oklahoma. What he found made his hand shake. Ember wasn't just a problem horse. She was a trained search and rescue animal, worth anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. Horses like her could detect human scent from miles away, sense danger before humans perceived it, navigate disaster zones. They were rare, valuable, and in high demand. But why was she listed as problem? Why the transport mix-up? He dug deeper, finding a news article from 6 months ago. Elite SAR horse retired after handler conflict. The story mentioned a mare named Ember who'd been temperamental and unmanageable after her primary handler died in a rescue operation. The organization had sold her to a private buyer to recoup costs. Someone had tried to erase her value. Someone had wanted her gone, cheap. "Grace," Caleb called out, "I think we just got very lucky." Word spread fast in small towns. By the time Caleb contacted a search and rescue organization in Tulsa to verify Ember's background, a black SUV was already pulling into Riverside Farm's driveway. The man who stepped out wore expensive boots and a leather jacket that cost more than Caleb's truck. "Name's Richard Vance. I'm here for my horse." "Your horse?" Caleb stood his ground, though his pulse raced. Vance pulled out papers. "I purchased Ember 3 months ago. There was a transport error. She should have gone to a facility in Texas for retraining." The pause before retraining sent chills down Caleb's spine. Grace appeared beside her father. "We have the delivery invoice. It says Riverside Farm." "A mistake," Vance said smoothly. "I'll compensate you for your time." $500. Caleb's mind raced. 500 wouldn't even cover the fence repairs, but more than money, something felt wrong. Ember's scars, her fear, Vance's cold eyes. "I'll need to verify ownership," Caleb said carefully. "The paperwork we received doesn't list you as the owner." Vance's smile froze. "I'm offering you a fair price for a problem animal. Don't be foolish, Mr. Harrison. You're about to lose this farm anyway. Take the money." How did he know about the farm's situation? "The horse stays until I verify everything," Caleb said, his voice steady despite his fear. Vance leaned closer. "You have 48 hours. Then I'm involving lawyers." He climbed back into the SUV, gravel spitting from his tires. Grace grabbed Caleb's arm. "Dad, what are we going to do? We can't afford lawyers." Caleb watched the dust settle. "We're going to find out why he wants her so badly." The truth came from Ember's former handler's widow, a woman named Sarah whom Caleb tracked down through the SR organization. She met them at a diner in Tulsa, her eyes tired but determined. "My husband, James, trained Ember from a foal," Sarah explained. "She was extraordinary. Found 12 missing people in 4 years, but after James died during a mountain rescue, the organization's new director, Richard Vance, wanted to modernize. He thought technology should replace animal teams." "So he sold her?" Grace asked. "Worse. He undervalued her deliberately, sold her to a private buyer for livestock prices, then planned to buy her back cheap and resell her to a government contract for 10 times the price. Your delivery was supposed to go to a kill buyer. Ember was supposed to disappear." Caleb felt sick. "He's claiming ownership now." Sarah slid a folder across the table. "These are James's training records, Ember's certifications, and proof that Vance violated the organization's ethics guidelines. He can't legally claim her, but he'll try to intimidate you into giving her up." "We're already losing everything," Caleb said quietly. "We can't fight someone with money and lawyers. Maybe you don't have to fight him. Maybe you just have to prove what Ember can do." 3 days later, a 5-year-old boy went missing in the woods near Riverside. The local sheriff knew about Ember. Sarah had made some calls. Desperate families didn't care about paperwork. Caleb and Grace brought Ember to the search zone. She was skittish at first, unused to working without James, but when they gave her the boy's shirt to smell, something changed. Her head lifted, her entire body focused. She led them through 2 miles of dense Oklahoma woodland, navigating terrain the human searchers had missed. 90 minutes later, she stopped at a ravine where the boy had fallen, scared but alive. The local news covered the rescue. By the time Vance's lawyers called, Riverside Farm's phone was ringing with requests from law enforcement, from other SAR teams, from families. Ember wasn't just a horse anymore. She was a proven lifesaver, and her value had just skyrocketed publicly. Vance withdrew his claim the next day. The contract offers started arriving within a week. Grace handled the paperwork while Caleb worked with Ember, slowly rebuilding the trust that James had first created. They didn't sell her. Instead, they contracted her services, enough income to pay off the farm's debt and start rebuilding. 6 months later, Riverside Farm had new fences, repaired barns, and 3 rescued SAR horses in training. Ember grazed peacefully in the pasture, Grace riding her along the fence line. "You know what's funny?" Grace called to her father. "The bank said we needed a miracle." Caleb smiled, watching his daughter and the horse that had arrived by mistake and stayed by purpose. "Turns out miracles sometimes show up in the wrong truck at exactly the right time." Ember's ears swiveled toward them, alert as always, watching over the farm that had become her home. The place where a transport mix-up had given both a broken horse and a broken family a second chance neither knew they needed.